Proficiency in leadership requires the same commitment and sacrifices as proficiency in craft. We place the duty to serve those we lead and the Coast Guard before our well-being. That's humility. We stand up for people. We take risks. And when prudence dictates, we do the right thing, no matter what the personal cost. That's courage. Proficiency in craft and proficiency in leadership enable individuals, teams, and units to attain what we've called disciplined initiative. We rely on Coast Guardsmen to act quickly and decisively within the scope of their authority, guided by the firm understanding of the desired objectives and the commander's intent. In our museum, you'll see the crew of the revenue cutter Eagle. When they were attacked by superior numbers during the World of 1812, her captain ran the cutter ashore, and then the crew dragged her cannon up to the cliffs where they could duel the British ships from an advantage of height. And then, when they ran out of shot, they actually dug the enemy's shot out of the cliff and fired it back at them. That's disciplined initiative. And once again, we see it in examples today. Consider the crew of the response boat Small from Station Golden Gate. While they were conducting boardings, they received word of a person in the water that needed assistance. Once on scene, they recovered the individual from the water, but a quick assessment revealed that she was not breathing and she had no heartbeat. So the crew started CPR, and they used the boat's defibrillator to revive her. But they knew she needed advanced care, and she needed it quickly, and they were still 20 minutes from the nearest pier. But they spotted some emergency medical personnel on the shore only about 300 yards from their location. The coxswain, boatswain's mate 3rd Class Sean Fadley, a Coast Guard reservist serving on active duty, made the decision to ground his boat to get the patient ashore directly. Petty Officer Fadley, along with BM1 Kevin Hambrick, assessed the risk. They developed an action plan, and then they safely beached the boat. The crew carried the patient directly to the waiting medical crew, saving her life. They were able to do this because of proficiency gained through practice and training, as well as their disciplined operational risk management. Proficient Coast Guardsmen exercise initiative in a disciplined way, knowing that judgment calls in a difficult circumstance may sometimes deviate from doctrine. 3 weeks ago, I watched the first episode of the new Coast Guard series, Coast Guard Cape Disappointment. One of the segments showed a helicopter from Air Station Astoria recovering a man that was lost in the surf. The interviewer later spoke with one of the crewmen, aviation maintenance technician, 3rd Class Rashad Gibson. As Petty Officer Gibson described the rescue, he spoke about the need for proficiency in doing the dangerous work that we do. For me, that was a gratifying moment because it was evidence that our drive for proficiency and our work to steady the service and reinforce those fundamental principles was catching on at the deck plates and on the flight decks, where it's absolutely the most important. And I have to say it's also catching on with our future leaders. Last month, I gave my annual leadership address to the cadets in New London. I received a question about change from Cadet 2nd Class Eric Jackson. He recognized that I had seen a lot of change during my time in the service, and he expressed his belief that over the course of his career, he and his classmates were likely to see even greater change and at an even greater pace. He wanted to know what advice I had for how to handle that change. So instinctively, I began not by talking about the best way to handle change, but rather how being anchored in those things that remain the same help us to deal with change. For example, I told him that being a sailor and going to sea really isn't all that much different than it was 200 or 300 years ago. It's still just as dangerous, unforgiving. We still stand watches. We still navigate by the constellations in the heavens, although today it's a constellation of satellites. But it's still based on many of the principles of celestial navigation that sailors have been using for hundreds of years. I told him how important things remain the same despite change. And I believe in that thought lies the answer to who we are as Coast Guardsmen. This is our way. It's in those things that endure: character, culture, ethos, the manners of our profession. All those things that remain the same and withstand the test of time, that help us define who we are and define our way. As Coast Guardsmen, some of us learn by those who teach us at training centers like Cape May and Petaluma or Yorktown. Or we learn at the Coast Guard Academy or Officer Candidate School in New London. You know, you've heard it in the examples I've given this morning. You've seen it in the pictures around me. And it's present in the people you've met this morning and all those who are members of our Coast Guard family. These things are observed, they're taught, and they're experienced. And eventually they're felt. They become a part of who we are. So this is our way. And for me, it's almost time to head towards the ladder and lay below from the bridge. But I'm still focused on those uncertain and stormy seas, the challenges that lie ahead. Prudent sailors always worry about the worst-case scenario and prepare for it. We as a service rightly focus on the problems, but that's natural because we're problem solvers. But my experiences as a sailor have also given me a strong sense of optimism that's been continuously validated by all that I've observed as I've traveled throughout my Coast Guard. My travels across the world have also affirmed my confidence as I have seen people and observed writers and other people in places as disparate as China and Great Britain who have declared us the best equipped and trained maritime security agency in the world. They respect us and they trust us, but not just for our strength or our capabilities, but rather for who we are and what we stand for, our way. We have the good fortune to be members of this very unique service that's always ready when our country needs us. Due to our collection of missions and legacy agencies, we sometimes defy logic when someone attempts to classify us or put a label on us. They might be excused for their confusion. We are a difficult institution to understand. But for that reason, whenever I'm asked to describe what I am, I always reply with pride. I am a Coast Guardsman. We are Coast Guardsmen. We are Douglas Monroe. We are Ray Evans. We are Terrell Horn. We are Travis Oberndorf and Chief Leanna Evans and Petty Officer Rashad Gibson and Cadet Eric Jackson and thousands of others in that long blue line who have placed service before self and answered the nation's call. It's in their example that guides us and defines our way and shows us the path forward through those uncertain and stormy seas. We are the men and women of the United States Coast Guard. This is our chosen profession. This is who we are. This is our way. Stand a taut watch out there. Semper Paratus, and thank you very much.